Hey everyone, Dr. Rhymatel again, back for another podcast. This time we're doing things a little bit different today. We've got a special guest. Louis. Yes, we have a little special guest. And we're off on a little trip today. Daytona 500 this weekend, so you know we got to be repping them Camrys. Representing Toyota, and we powered by that big bull energy today. Sponsor. So this is Camp Mountain, a little spot out of town that we normally like to come to just to chill and relax. It used to be a railway line that followed this road up until the 1930s, when there was as you can see there, a unfortunate railway crash on this curb here. It was actually the most dangerous, the most fatal crash in Australia, Queensland rail history. Fortunately, in the last 80 odd years since then, we haven't had something worse. So, I don't like to come here just to chill, just to think. It's a bit more populated than it used to be, but still pretty cool to think that a railway line used to be here. Very big on trains. So yeah, this is our first little spot for adventure today. So as you've probably figured out by now, our special guest today is my dog, Louis. Louis, say hello to the people. Say hello to the internet. He's a 7-year-old Staffy Cross Ridgeback with a bit of mutt, according to my partner, who actually got him DNA tested. We've had him pretty much since he was a pup, so we've had him pretty much the whole 7 years. He's very much got the energy and attitude of a Staffy. He's still just as energetic as he ever was. His hobbies include chasing possums, stepping on my nuts, and sneezing on my neck while we're driving. So he's out having a little sniff around, loves to play, loves to explore. Scary to think that this little dude's like halfway through his life cycle already. That scares me. That really does scare me a little. Here he is, just exploring around, having a little sniff, seeing who else has visited, wandering about the place. So I thought today we'd do something a little bit different, out and about, enjoying the sun. I know I said this week was my mother's passing. It was Thursday was the exact date, so the anniversary is always a bit moody. I'm sure anyone out there who's lost someone close like that would understand that you kind of get a bit moody in the days leading up to it. I had all these plans to do this little podcast about grieving and dealing with loss and everything, but after the date passed, it was sort of a relief. It was like a fever breaking, you know. I'd got through it again, and we'd overcome it. And I think Mum would want us to be out and about anyway, so you know, I thought today we'd just do a little adventure, and there'll be a podcast style bit at the end of it, but really it's just about me and Louis being out and about, having fun. So yeah, we'll see where we end up today. I really love how the trees just overhang the road here. It's gives you like a little tunnel to drive through. We're already sort of halfway through it, but it's really cool. I love a lot of the roads around here like that. Just a couple of dudes driving around in a Toyota Camry, trying to stay 7 feet apart because they're not gay. Okay, this is part of the video that is actually more of a podcast than anything, because I'm just actually driving along on hands-free at the moment. So I just thought I'd give you guys a little bit of background on what you've probably seen so far as Louis tries to eat my face. He has taken me hostage today for a little drive. He threatens to maul me if I don't take him where he wants to go. So a little bit of background on Camp Mountain. If you know Brisbane at all, it is situated sort of on the way between Ferny Grove and Dayborough, Sanford, out that way. Once upon a time, back when this area was first sort of settled, there was a railway that ran out this way, which still does to this day, but it terminates at a suburb called Ferny Grove, which is sort of on the outskirts of the CBD, coming out towards the bush a bit more. But back in the day, up until around the 1930s, that railway line actually ran further. It ran all the way through Camp Mountain, which is where we are now, and then it ran all the way out to a little country town called Dayborough. I think some of the railway is still around, and I think there's a few like B&B places that have actually converted into like little sleeping places out of old railway carriages and railway trucks, which I think is pretty cool. There's like a heritage sort of trail you can walk or ride as well that sort of follows the old railway route. The main reason they terminated the railway past Ferny Grove was the popularity for it wasn't really as big as it was initially. It was also very dangerous, as you can probably expect. Putting a railway on a mountain is never really a smart thing to do, especially when you're dealing with cantankerous old steam trains and things like that. Unfortunately, the ultimate incident that terminated the railway was, as you saw in the video previous, the Camp Mountain rail disaster, which happened pretty much on the spot where I filmed that little memorial. Very tragic event. It was a chartered school trip, I believe, and the train just went into the corner too fast, had a brake failure, I believe, and had a massive derailment. I don't have the immediate number of fatalities handy right now, obviously, because I'm driving, but unfortunately it was the worst rail disaster in Queensland's history up to that point, and I suppose thankfully in a way it still is. We haven't surpassed that in the state as yet. Sadly, I think New South Wales still holds the record for the worst rail disaster. That was Granville, I believe, where a train derailed and smashed into a road bridge. Very, very tragic event. But after that, they sort of tore the railway up past Ferny Grove, and they've been talking about putting it back, actually, because Brisbane's growing a lot these days. I've watched it through my own eyes, and I see it around me everywhere. And we're starting to sort of expand back out this way. There's only so far we can go, though, because there are a couple of mountains, one of which we're actually going to at the moment. So there'll be some video footage of that. But this part of the podcast was basically just an audio rundown of some things rather than visual, which I suppose is what more podcasts are more than anything. Fun little tidbit of information as well. The train that was involved in that, the actual locomotive that was heading the train when it derailed, I can't remember if it went back into service, but it is actually on display these days. But it's all the way out at a town. If you're not familiar with Queensland, it's out in a town by the name of Roma, which is, from memory, about 7 hours sort of southwest of Brisbane, way out in the desert. I actually have a couple of customers I talk to out that way, so that's sort of where it is these days. It's kind of odd to know that there's still a tidbit of that history still physically out and about. So, and that little memorial is very easy to get to if you ever do want to come to it to pay your respects. It's literally right beside the road, as you probably saw in that video there, so it's very easy to miss, though. I sort of had to drive. It doesn't matter how many times I come out here, I had to drive back and forth 2 or 3 times before I actually saw it. So yeah, just thought I'd give you a little tidbit of the background of what you saw back there. Louis and I are driving off to our next little adventure, so you'll probably see us again very, very soon. You get some points out here when you're driving where you just get this whiff of weed and ganja every so often. Or maybe it's bat guano, I don't know. They kind of smell the same. But I'm sure it's not a coincidence that there is literally a suburb out here called Highvale. Okay, so this is basically just going to be one of those episodes of Initial D where there's a mountain battle, except the battle on the mountain is literally the Camry versus the Mount Nebo. The Mount Nebo Speed Stars rolling out. Personally, I think it's just going to be a miracle if we survive. What do you reckon, Lou? Do you think we have a good chance of surviving and getting up the mountain with the Camry without blowing up spectacularly? Okay, he's trying to avoid me, so I'm pretty sure he's not too confident about what's about to happen. So, yeah. So, status report. We made it to the top of the mountain. All it took was 2 engine changes, 10 litres of coolant, and 2 years of our life that I am never going to get back. Officer Louis on patrol, making sure the night kids are behaving themselves up here. Very good boy, but unfortunately he doesn't make a good cop. He's too easy to bribe with treats. Aren't you? There's actually a nice view up here. Can't see too much of it at the moment because there is a vineyard just there. But no, this is a good spot. Very nice part of the city to come to. I say the city because the CBD, or the road to the CBD, is about a 15-minute drive up that road. So, beautiful thing about Brisbane, and I suppose Australia in general, is you're never really far from the great outdoors. We used to come up here for, I suppose we called them toge runs, but we were basically just idiot kids in cars just doing stupid things with, you know, we shouldn't have. We weren't necessarily influenced by anything. We didn't watch Initial D and think that, you know, we could do that ourselves or anything like that. We just had freedom. A lot of us had rough upbringings. A lot of us had, you know, just been under people's shadows for a long time as kids. And we were still kids then, but we grew up and suddenly we had freedom. Suddenly we could go and do things, and I miss that. You know, we'd be in cars for hours and hours, just places like this, you know, just doing mountain runs, city drives. We wouldn't be coming home till like 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes we just wouldn't go home. We'd just stay out till the sun came up and then drive back. But yeah, I remember this place being so frightening, you know, because I only ever really saw it in the dark. I only ever really saw the blind corners and the up and down hills and the warning signs, the knocked over posts and tyre marks from people that just pushed it a bit too far. I'll admit I was one of them. I overcooked it one night up here and knocked over a post, almost went off a cliff. Thankfully there was a ditch there. A couple of Euro boys coming past now. As if to emphasize my point. Don't really know why that's there, but okay. So we're off exploring again. Louis immediately went for the grapes, or towards the grapes. I never considered my pup to be a wine connoisseur, but apparently he's classier than I thought. Now I just have to teach him to stop eating cat poop. Good luck with that, as you say. What did you find, Lou? He was really keen on something. Sniffing along the fence. Coming along over here. Yeah. Oh, good shakes. Gorgeous day. I know I normally prefer rain and cold and snow if we ever had it, but I could appreciate a nice day when we're out. Oh look, Louis, it's a random mailbox in the middle of the road, in the middle of nowhere. This is our little adventure today. Just out and about. I thought I would try something a bit more visual today. I know I said I wanted to try and shake things up a little bit, so yeah, we're going to do that. Lou, why'd you go behind me? Ah, he's pulling my hand behind my back right now. And now he's trying to wrap me up. Louis, you idiot, if you knock me out, you're not going to be able to get home. Oh, who am I kidding? With a face like that, you'd easily flag down a car, get a lift home free. Ow! Best thing about being a dog, everyone loves you. Must be nice being a dog. Imagine just having the most relaxed life ever as a dog. Not understanding politics or the world or depression, anxiety. Just being a dog in the world. Being excited and always exploring. Must be a hell of a good time. They're such gorgeous animals, but they have such short lifespans to us. As you can probably tell, I'm kind of having an existential crisis today. But I guess they're just too good to live as long as we do. Oh, he's seen a butterfly. Don't eat the butterflies, Lou. Mum always said if she was going to come back, she'd be a butterfly. I don't want you to eat my mother. That's kind of weird. Little boy has plenty of water today. It's always important to stay hydrated. He's now running around in circles. If you wonder why he pants so much, he seems to have a bit of a sensory overload sometimes when we go for drives. Particularly if it's somewhere like this he hasn't been before. He tends to just get excited. There's a lot of new smells and sights and sounds. So I did get worried at first. I thought he used to do it all the time and I used to get worried, but my partner tells me that no, he's just excited. He's got new stuff to explore. Lou, come here, boy. Look at that face. Look at that derp. Little wonder that dogs are such a big part of our lives. You just look at them. You just see a dog and you're like, I feel better now. Oh, Jesus is taking me on a trip again. Over to the fence. Louis, you can't have the grapes. I hope the fence isn't electrical. It's not. It's not. I should probably point that out. Oh, look at the yellow butterfly. So. This little stretch by the winery actually used to be one of our favourite little rest stops on our mountain adventures at night. We actually, quite a few of us, spray painted our names on the road here, or messages for people that we liked or cared about or loved or had a crush on or something. Like, it reminded me of the Nürburgring where they have all that stuff written on the road. We used to think it'd last forever, but it didn't. I suppose nothing ever really does. We thought we were 10 feet tall, we thought we were invincible, but I mean, as if to emphasize my point, there's almost like a little tire mark there to show that we weren't, and we were lucky. We did a lot of stupid shit as kids, but we were lucky that we never did anything. Or lucky that we never got harmed. Sadly, I know a lot of folk who did. And in fact, some of the people that we spray painted on the road here are no longer here either. It's a timely reminder that it's okay to have fun, but I suppose know your limit, know your limitations, know what you can do. Don't feel pressured into doing something, because you can always go home and learn to do it. If you try it then and there, you'll probably won't live to go home and learn how to do it. I still remember the day that Mum passed away, like minute by minute. You know, I can tell you what I was doing that day. I can tell you where I was. I can tell you what was playing on the radio. I spoke to her that morning as well. She was complaining about a tight chest, but one of my sisters had recently got a cold, and she thought that's all it was. I still can't cry. I want to, because I know that crying is... Hey buddy, he knows I'm upset. I know that crying can be a very relaxing, relieving release. I tend to feel better after it, but ever since my mother died, I haven't been able to cry properly. I did shed tears when Granddad passed away. I've shed tears for friends. I shed tears when I had to put my Aunt Kelly in the ground 3.5 years ago. She unfortunately took her own life. She was like a sister to me. I've lost a lot of people, and I'm sure you all have too. I lost my mother before I was 21. I lost friends. I mean, the first person I ever really lost that hit was Uncle Howard back when I was 13, because growing up was a bit rough, and he was more of a father figure to me than anyone else, and he taught me a lot about my military stuff. I think Mum would have loved Louis. She always wanted to get another dog. I'm sure she would have loved having him around the house. I mean, I know it's never a good idea to dwell on what could have been, what you wish had been. I know that, but it's fun to dream, you know. The problem is when you get frustrated about it. Like, going back to what I said about crying, in not being able to cry, my body just I get angry instead. I get very irritable, very short-tempered, very, you know, I love that we're having this, like, serious discussion about existentialism, and there's just this dog. Hey, buddy. Hey, Papa. I know. I lost all my grandparents before I was 30. The family I had close, the only ones I really have left in my immediate family is one of my sisters. The other one's alive, but we don't get along, and we're very far apart. I have 2 step siblings that have done nothing but try to help, look after me,
throughout the years. They were a pain as I was growing up, but they kind of realised that, I think, and they've tried to make amends, you know. So I suppose the thing I kind of wanted to really get to was that everyone mourns differently and feels differently. Everyone copes differently. Some people like to keep things close to their chest and not talk about things. Me, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I was the classic gamer where I would just fall for the first girl that talked to me and all that sort of jazz. So to have people to actually talk to about things it's big for me, you know, and I like to talk to people as much as I can. But there are days where I don't, and there are days where I want to shut off like everyone else does. But I suppose the thing I wanted to say is that you and you only know how to cope. There's 7 billion something people in this planet, and it's inevitable that there could potentially be 7 billion different ways to deal with losing people. And whatever you think works, no matter how off the bat or obscure it may seem, just go with it. Absolutely go with it. If it helps you cope, if it keeps your mind busy until a point where you can deal with it, do it, you know? And I learned that the day it happened. I want to give a shout out to an old friend of mine that I'm still with on Facebook, but I haven't spoken to for a long time. His name is Daniel. I spent quite a few years working with him in my first full-time job at a hardware place. He's living a good life now. He's moved interstate. He's got a loving partner. They've got a heap of gorgeous puppies. They've got a farm. They always post animal pictures because who doesn't want to see that? Like, he's a good guy. He's been through a lot, and you know he deserves a good life, and he's getting it, which is great to see. But I have to give a shout out to Daniel because at the time Mum passed, I was very close with him and a few other friends, and I had a couple of friends talking to me through the afternoon after it happened, just trying to cope with things. And I think by the time that Dan got to talk to me, I was just exhausted, you know. And at the time, I was playing through Need for Speed Pro Street, which is a fucking great game, by the way. At the moment, once I move again, I'm going to have the PS3 up, and I'm going to be playing that again as well. I come back to it all the time because it's just a fun game. But like at the time, I was doing a playthrough of it, and like when all was said and done, I just sort of said to Dan on the phone, I was like, you know what? I just want to go home and play Pro Street and just not deal with this anymore. And without hesitation, Dan just goes, do it. Why not? If that's what you want, if that's what's going to help you, do it. Just go. Fuck what people think. And I did, you know. I tried to console the family as much as I could. And then it turned into a mission to look after me. And then for a couple of hours, I was back at my place, just buried in playing Pro Street until a couple of other friends came over afterwards to check on me, you know. And ever since then, games have been my thing, you know. I had a rough childhood with parents that fought a lot and family that didn't really get along, so... And I was always underachieving, and I still feel like I do underachieve. So to have a platform where you put effort in and you get something out of it, even if it's just a virtual thing, you know. The game's like, you rock, you win, you're cool, you know. It sounds fucked up, but some people, that's the first time they hear it in their life. I think the only time my dad ever told me well done was if I asked him how he wanted his steak done. And that's a fucking terrible joke, I know. But, yeah, you know, I've had a lot of fun with Lou today. We've had a good little adventure. Obviously, I couldn't film more of it because phoning and driving is a terrible idea. Don't do it. I know there was a couple of seconds there where I was, but please don't do it. It's stupid, and I know it is. But one thing that has always stuck with me was I've had a fear of death since I was a very little child, long before anyone passed away in my family. Like, long before I had an understanding of death, I had an existential crisis. I was terrified of dying. I was terrified of getting old. Back then, I was terrified of getting to like my 20s. Like, come high school, part of me didn't even think that I would survive to this point. You know, at this point, I'm sort of winging it because I didn't really have a plan. But I don't know. I think it was mainly triggered by the anxiety that I have. I have a lot of anxiety, and when that coupled with it, like, it's easy to shrug off thoughts of passing and death and shit. But when your anxiety is thrown in as well, it fucks with you real bad. Like, I've had whole years ruined because I couldn't relax and all that sort of shit. And it's happened every couple of years. And last time it happened in end of 17, like 2017 was a gut punch. I was getting places. I was making moves. You know, we had plans. And it was a good year up until about October that year. And then everything fell apart, and that's when my Aunt Kelly died, and a lot of other shit happened. And just before Christmas, I had another panic attack about death, and it fucked me over for months. I wasn't completely over it till about February 18, you know. But I went for therapy. I had a great psychologist. I have to give a shout out here as well. A head psychology in Stafford, I want to say. Like, they're on the sort of between the Stafford and the Grange. They were fantastic. I went back there a few times for multiple visits and things, and they treat you so well. The receptionists were so understanding. They were so polite. It almost moved you to tears, you know. And the psychologists there are great, you know. And the one I had was brilliant with helping me through that sort of thing. And one thing that he told me that I wanted to share, it's what's stuck with me, and then it's what's kept it all at bay since then. And it's quite simple, really. Like, you can believe in reincarnation if you want, and sometimes I think so. The idea of being able to come back and potentially right wrongs sticks with me, you know. There's a lot of different things you can think and say, but what stuck with me the most was he said that, you know, before you were born, you didn't know any of this existed. You were basically asleep, shut off, dormant, for potentially thousands of years. Like, you're just one, not necessarily spirit, but you are one personality in the world. And, you know, you were blissfully unaware of so much for so many years before you were born. And when you pass, you basically just go back to that state, that peaceful, null sort of state. And it sounds so brutally honest, but it worked. I thought about it, and it actually kept a lot of it at bay. It still does keep a lot of it at bay, which surprised me. But to each their own. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that my advice and my situation is going to help you, because I know you, anyone out there that has dealt with loss, I know you would think differently, maybe. You know, I don't expect you to be like, yeah, that's right, I totally think that, you know. I don't expect that, you know. I'm basically just sharing my story of what helps me, you know. That's why I spend so much spare time video gaming. It's my release from things. People smoke, people drink, people binge Netflix, people read. I used to read a lot until I got writer's block and just didn't read anymore. You know, and that's my thing. I build cars, I race cars, I drive around in tanks, I fly planes, I build stuff, I blow up stuff. You know, that's my thing. And you've got your thing. And you do your thing. Fuck what everyone else thinks. You know? Just be you. Because you are what I want to see. You are the person that I want to talk to. I don't want to talk to someone pretending to be you. You know, I always want to see you. Okay? If there are problems with each other, if we have problems with us being ourselves, then we can talk through that. You know, if it's something simple, it can be solved. If it's not, well then maybe those two people shouldn't talk to each other anymore, you know? But yeah. So bit different, as I said earlier, bit different format this week. I wanted to get out, show you guys a bit more of the world around us. Got a couple of car video things I want to do with some games that I'm thinking about. It's more just a matter of getting the motivation to put them together. So, as you could probably tell, it was a rough week, but I seem to be winning the battle with weight. I'm currently fighting with my belt because no matter, even if I set it on the highest notch, my pants are still almost falling down on me. So I may have to invest in a new belt, which in itself is an achievement. It's a big deal for me, you know, to not have to go to a Lowe's store that sells plus size stuff, you know, to actually go to a normal shop and be like, I can just buy a belt, piece of piss, don't have to worry. So that's a plus. You know, I've held on to that a bit this week. As I said, it's like a fever has broken. I'm feeling better now. There's a lot still there to take in, as there always will be. Hey, it's an old MG, nice. Such a car thing for me to do, in the middle of this. But yeah, I hope each and every one of you are staying okay this week. I know Melbourne has gone back into a lockdown for a week or two, and I hope my friends down in Vic are staying out of trouble. I know things are pretty crazy down there. We're all thinking of you, because at some point or another we've all had to go through it, some more than others. Stay safe, look out for each other. And yeah, I just go home today. After you see this, I want you to go and talk to your mother. Ask her how she is. See how she's doing. If you don't get along with your mother, or if you're in a position like me, then I hope that you have someone who is a mother figure to you. Someone that you can confide with like you would with her. And I hope that you do have one of those. You know? Because growing up is just a succession of things you didn't realize you had, you know. They always say, oh, you don't know what you have till it's gone. And that's true. Especially when you get older and life becomes busier and busier and busier. You don't know what you had, you know. And I mean, we can talk about missed opportunities and things and survivor's guilt another time, because that's another can of worms, you know. But yeah, just ask your mum how she's going. Give her a hug if you can, if she's there, you know. And if she is, you're lucky, you know. And if you have a good relationship with her, anytime you argue with her and you start to feel against them, there are a lot of people that would envy where you are in the position that you're in, you know. If all I had to do to keep my mother around was say that I was sorry about a little household argument, I'd do it. There are a lot of things I didn't get to say sorry for. She never got to meet Lou. She'll never meet my partner. She'll never walk down the aisle. She'll never see my kids. She'll never see my house. I never got to tell her about all the trips I took with my businesses and things. She's one of the reasons I stay alive. You know? And I said that in one of the earlier podcasts, that as long as you have something, you know, I do have something. I have a lot of somethings, a lot of little somethings that add up to something pretty decent, you know. And that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. And I want to see other people succeed, and I want to help other people if I can, which is part of the reason I started doing this thing. So, you know, we've had a fun day today. You know, we've been out and about. We had a lot of good fun. Louie and I are going to go home now, get something to eat. He's probably going to go roll around in the yard. I'm going to chill for a couple of hours and then probably start playing the crew. Try and get some footage, maybe. See how I feel. Go back into Wreckfest. I mean, it's Daytona this weekend. Woo, some racing finally, so get some Wreckfest going, get some oval races going, smash some shit. So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope that you're good and I hope that you're healthy. If you're not, I wish you a successful and easy recovery. Take care, stay safe, and I will catch you in another week or so. Peace out, people.